7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
Welcome to Knife Talk, the #1 podcast for anybody interested in knives, whether you're a maker, a collector, or you just have a morbid fascination with knives. Whatever it is, we welcome you to the show. And to those who are on the live as well, so we're actually streaming this live on YouTube. So if you're in the live chat, say hello. Say hello. I'm here, as usual, with Mareko Craig. He's back from a little trip, which we'll hear about in just a second, and Geoff Fader of Fader Knives. And I'm Craig Lockwood of Chop Knives. How are you guys? How are we? Should we go straight into Mareko, your week, because you've had a good time by the sounds of things?
I was playing hooky. No, I took a much needed mental health break, and I went out to Hawaii and spent a week with Neil, working with Neil, and it's funny. I leave work to go do work, but working with him. But it's different, you know. I'm out of my shop. I'm not making my own stuff. Or I actually did bring stuff, but I was like, I was teaching him some of my processes with my own work. So stuff that was already on its way, you know, had handle material ready and all that kind of stuff. And so some of it was grinding, some of it was glue up, layup. He's been getting into integrals. And what he wanted me to come over and do is kind of help him figure out his integral process, because he feels like it's a weakness of his, and he doesn't like having weaknesses in his repertoire of skills. And so, but he's killing it. You know, he's doing good stuff. So we're there for a week, and basically, you know, he's got a nice piece of property. He's up at 1,500 feet elevation on the Big Island, which is really nice. And portions of the property have like a 120-degree view of the ocean, and off the back patio of his. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you're up high enough you can see past everything. Like, you're looking over the tops, like 100-foot tall trees. You know. You can see the horizon. Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Beautiful. Did you get much time to sort of get out and explore as well, or was it all work?
No, it's mostly work, and part of it, and he was actually thanking me that I'm not like, oh, let's go chase this waterfall, let's go to this beach, let's go to that beach. I've actually been to the Big Island quite a few times myself, and I know it's not the last time I'm going to be there, so I don't really put too much pressure, especially if I'm staying with somebody, to like take me around and show me around. I've kind of been there a bit. There's definitely plenty of stuff I still want to see and do, but because I know it's not my last time there, I'm not worried about trying to get it all in.
You should definitely speak to my family before they come over next time. That would be handy.
Which is the Big Island? What is the Big Island?
The Big Island is the biggest island of the chain of Hawaiian islands. It's called the Big Island, but it is the island. All of the whole state of Hawaii is named after the Big Island, which is also named Hawaii. It's so large that all of the other islands could fit inside of it with room to spare. It is a massive island, and I love that island because there's a ton of history there. It's also not as heavily commercial as like Oahu or Kauai can be. Oahu is where the capital is. Kauai is like a pretty well-known like tourist destination, especially for hiking. It's a little slower there, which I like. And yeah, so. Nice. But it was good. It was good to get up there, get a little bit of a like I said, like a mental health break, and get some work done. Feel like I'm contributing to somebody's journey, and also, yeah, it's beautiful over there.
So what did you get in return? Did you get any hair tips? Any hair tips from Neil in return?
No hair tips.
Oh.
Dude, his kid is so cute though. And what's hilarious is his kid has these like little highlights. He's got jet black hair except for these like auburn highlights. And it's just natural. I'm like, good hair runs in the family, I guess.
It's the old lemon juice trick that is in the sun. I know the trick.
Yes.
You're obviously not using it though.
Obviously,
look at you.
Grecian 2000 all the way.
So how's the food?
Awesome. His wife, she used to be like kind of a semi YouTuber chef down in Brazil. And so she's a phenomenal cook. And anything she touched turns into gold. And so it was really great to eat all the really good food there. We did one trip to a portion of the island called Waipio Valley, which is the Valley of the Kings, and it's I can't remember why it's called that, but anyways, it's a super local spot. And afterward and it's actually up at the like top right corner of the big island. And outside of the valley, after hiking to a beautiful waterfall, some swimming there, we went back and ate at a place called Fish and Hog, which is like this smokehouse barbecue joint, and everything there was awesome. Super good food. Nice. And it was all kind of like their own local take on kind of like Texas barbecue, basically.
Very jealous. Very jealous.
You. Nice.
Yeah, my week wasn't as exciting, unfortunately. Although we did get chickens this week, which is quite exciting for the house here. We got a couple of chickens, which the kids love. Yeah, that was our highlight. What I've been doing, I've been shipping out a lot of folding knives, which is nice. What else? I've been working on. I mentioned in the past this hemp material that I had made into for handle scales. I've had my first big order for that for a restaurant. So that's quite nice working with that stuff because it works really nicely. It grinds nicely, finishes nicely. So that's really nice. What else have I been up to? There's a big secret on the horizon, but that's I'm going to leave it at that.
Fucking secrets. Fucking secrets.
What else? Oh, I mean, it's not knife related, but I went to a gig, which was at the time it was the UK's biggest outdoor gig. It was 25 years ago, and it was an Oasis gig, and this was at Nebworth Park, where like Queen played, Led Zeppelin played. It's this huge outdoor venue, and it was played to 250,000 people over a weekend. Excuse me, this huge thing. But anyway, they've made a film about it, and they released it in cinemas just for one night, and they played it last night worldwide at the same time everywhere. So that was a weird thing to do. Go and watch a film about something that I did 25 years ago, knowing that there's people all around the world watching at the same time. It's I think, yeah, it was really, I think that's the future of cinema, maybe. Nobody's going now to watch, normal films, but I think these one-off events in a cinema work really well.
Did you remember being at that show? Did you
completely.
When you watched it? Did you have like waves of nostalgia?
Yeah, and the film was really good because they didn't just show the gig. They showed like the stories of the gig and like behind the scenes stuff and that. And you got your hair standing on end and stuff. It was really cool the way they did it. So yeah, cool. So that's what I did last night. And today, I took a nap like an old person does.
Look at you.
Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
I've worked out why I'm so tired and why I'm feeling so run down for the last few weeks. It's because the kids have started school, and I haven't woken to an alarm like most of my life. I've been really fortunate that that's a luxury that I have, I suppose. But now the kids are in school, we need to get up early and get them ready for school. So for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been waking to an alarm, and I'm not used to it, and it's killing me. It's breaking me. So today I had to go for a nap like an old man. I was just like, look, I need an hour, and I've only been awake about an hour. I ended up having 4 hours, so I'll struggle tonight. But yeah, I'm turning into a really, really old man.
This reminds me, I've learned something based on yoga videos I used to do and some other fitness things I've been doing lately.
Oh, Geoff, talking about do you have a Peloton?
Can I just fucking finish the story, please? Asking me a question, you ask me the question every 5 minutes. When anytime something's difficult or somebody's complaining, the instructor says just breathe through it. So just breathe through it is shut up. Shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. So I'm going to start to try to use, it's almost like the I'm with you of health. It's like, just breathe through it. So I think from now on, when somebody's complaining or, it's just, you just breathe through it. Just breathe through it.
Yes. So. Yeah. But anyway, I feel invigorated after my old man's nap anyway, which is a good thing.
Do you get hungry when you wake up from a nap?
Well, funny enough, I did eat immediately as I woke up because I knew I was doing the show. But and it was like a massive beef burger. It's not the kind of light thing you have normally when you wake up. It was a huge plate. But
in that kitchen of yours, what the things in that refrigerator are like? I mean, it's just like I got some lettuce, maybe a little cheese or milk or something. You got like beef bourguignon in the refrigerator. What's going on in that house?
We've got kids here, so we need to cook.
Yeah.
And
obviously you're also
raising. There's something always ready, And
you're probably raising some dinner. The new chickens are gonna, if they don't cough up the eggs, it's gonna be
exactly. Yeah.
In the refrigerator.
Hey and Chickaletta are the chickens, by the way.
A la carte.
They're beautiful. Geoff, your week, how was it?
It was a very, very fast-paced week, and I had a good time because we're working with this new person who's started this week doing customer service, and Tony's been working with her, and it's been like, we refer to like when you do customer service and things come in, we call it shaking the tree. So we've been shaking, the tree was shook this week, and then the leaves have been raked in. So it's kind of like been a very fast paced week, which has been it's been exciting. A lot of nice big jobs have been coming in, which I'm looking forward to, including one that's kind of like, I'm not going to say secret, but I mean, it's kind of like a friend of mine who is involved with a restaurant in Las Vegas wants to do some steak knives, but it's kind of like more VIP. And it was interesting because we talked for quite a while, and it may or may not work out. I actually texted you, Craig. You never responded to me. I need the best bang for your buck on a fiber laser. I need one that's going to last, and maybe I got at some point I'm just going to have to bite the bullet on that. But it was interesting. The really interesting part of it all was, now we've talked about the restaurant industry because we do culinary knives, the three of us. So we're dealing with people in the restaurant business in general. And then when you're talking to, and you especially, Craig, you do a lot of steak knives for restaurants, which is amazing because usually, restaurants generally have, maybe they'll have a budget in the beginning of the build for something special like expensive steak knives. But usually it's just like the food costs are so high and, your profit margin's so low. A lot of these flea bags especially are less likely to spend. But the interesting thing the conversation was about was because this restaurant was in a casino, we have a different idea of what these restaurants in Las Vegas and casinos are. You see like Gordon Ramsay's got a restaurant there. It's not his restaurant. I mean, it's the casino's restaurant. Yeah. And what they do is they'll license out his name, right? So he'll put his name on, and maybe he'll do the menu. Maybe he'll have maybe he'll have some like, ideas about the menu and stuff like that, and staffing and how he wants service. But other than that, I mean, Gordon Ramsay ain't coming to that restaurant. So this is the same situation. So the interesting thing was I was told that, what we're going to do, and it's not going to be one batch of knives. It might be, as gifts and stuff like that. Because the interesting thing about these restaurants in Las Vegas is they're not about making money at all. Like the restaurants don't need to make it. The restaurants are just basically there to feed their big gamblers. So like if you're like a big spender, a big gambler, maybe you make arrangements for the restaurant, for the casino, and then they know you're going to come, and then they kind of like concierge you all through, and you're making all squared away, and then all of a sudden you'll get comp this VIP table at a restaurant, and then they'll throw stuff at you. So it's interesting because we're going to design these knives and figure it out. I be honest with you, Tony's just don't think too much about it until they sign the deal. It's just like, it's not even worth spending. I mean, this most likely won't happen, but it is interesting topic of conversation because these restaurants have a different mindset in terms of their business. Like now all of a sudden it's just, they don't give a shit about the profit margin anymore. They're just there for like, they're the cherry on top.
Yeah. Keep people happy. Yeah. I'd say when it comes to steak knives, I'd say probably less than 20% of the restaurants that contact me actually then go ahead with an order. It's a very low percentage, but
20% is a high percentage.
I don't know.
10% is a realistic percentage.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, but then obviously, it's that thing of multiple orders. So when they do come
Right.
in, the ship sort of comes home kind of thing. But yeah,
Well,
that sounds exciting. Sounds
Well,
good.
it might not be. I mean, it might be just a giant pain in the ass. I mean, it might be just like me making, one knife for like Bruno Mars or something stupid, and it's just like putting like a little gift basket with like a bottle of Perrier. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like it could be fucking nothing. I mean, I said Bruno Mars. I don't know why I even said Bruno Mars, but it's just like
He's
this
your
whole
favorite.
thing could be a giant pain in the ass in general. And then what I'm going to follow that up with is next week on the Full Blast podcast, I have this great food writer coming up, this friend of mine, Julia Sexton, and we're going to talk about the restaurant business a little bit more and, what's happened, or especially during coronavirus, all these restaurants die, but Vegas is like, let's pump it out. They got no problem whatsoever.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the chat and I'm laughing because we obviously have a very high percentage of men who listen, of our listenership are males.
Yeah.
And this, there's often like questions in the chat where people ask each other and they answer the questions. And it's a good place to hang out, I suppose. Griffith's handmade knives. Has anyone here had a vasectomy? It's some dad forum or something this has turned into.
What kind of a cock the podcast does this turn into? I guess it's my fault.
We're here to help.
I do have the last of my humiliating. I shouldn't hold my finger up like this. I have the last of my humiliating health story for the after show.
Never say it's the last. You don't know what's happening next week. Never say it's the last.
Nothing's booked. So if nothing's booked, that's the last. Everything else is booked. I'm finally done being booked. I'm bagging the cardiologist. I'm not just doing that. We're all right. Everything else
Right.
is
fine. Before we move on to questions from the filthy public, I want to tell you about my kiln.
Knife Talk is sponsored by Even Heat, the manufacturers of the finest heat treat ovens available. To find your next oven, go to evenheat-kiln.com.
There we go. Get yourself an Even Heat. And actually, what you can do is go to their number one distributor, which is Soul Ceramics, and you can get $75 off and free shipping in the US. So if you go to knifetalk.net/heat, that'll take you automatically to Soul Ceramics, and it'll automatically apply those discounts for you, so there's no need to worry. knifetalk.net/heat, and everything's down in the description there, wherever you may be listening to this podcast.
I think the demographics of our listeners are much older than we were hoping for.
This is the kind of thing where if you're only listening to the audio on a Monday, you're not getting all the fun of the chat that we see from the people here live. So we're talking about anybody had the snip, and Grateful Knives, he just replied,
Oh, yeah.
I just wear Crocs.
I mean, everybody,
because he's not getting anywhere in Crocs, let's face it.
everybody in the chat is sterile as fuck. It's fine. Don't worry. There's a bunch of eunuchs in this motherfucker. Fantastic. I'm with you guys.
Yeah, their dewars are all quite safe, I think.
Yeah, empty. That's a callback right there.
Okay, shall we take some questions?
Hey, man, can I ask you a question?
Mareko, do you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, this is the part of the show where you ask questions and we do the best to answer them and maybe pick them apart. We're going to kick it off with CN Knives, who I think also kicked off last week's questions. Somebody says, hey guys, trying to transition more into the world of hidden Tang knives and was curious on how thin a Tang can be when it comes to thickness. I accidentally ground a very thin, about 1/16th of an inch thick Tang, and was wondering if it is usable after bedding the Tang. Thanks. How do you guys feel about 1/16th of an inch thick Tangs?
So I suppose he's talking about an integral, so he's not talking about the Tang being the same thickness as the spine of the knife.
He's not talking about
assume.
an integral.
Not
He's
necessarily.
talking about a hidden Tang knife.
So
You're
surely that would
you're
be...
the blacksmith, for Christ's sakes. Come on, man.
Yeah, but I mean, sure that's going to be dictated by the thickness of the stock that he's using anyway, as in the spine of the knife. Why would you go any lower?
Well, I think it might have been a
Unless you did an
mistake.
integral.
Could have been a mistake too.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, something I see Bowie knife and hunting knife makers, especially like great makers like Lin Ray, they'll cut in little shoulders. Even though it's not an integral blade, they'll cut in little shoulders on the sides as well as the front and the back so that it mates to the surface of a guard or something like that all the way around. And my guess is that he took that. Maybe it was already like whatever, maybe 200,000s or 150,000s, and he just took it too far, farther than maybe it sounds like he wanted to. But do you think that would be an issue?
For a culinary knife, probably not, because you're not going to be bashing the shit out of those things, hopefully. But if it's a buoy or something like that, maybe, especially if you're battening it, it could be a problem. What do you think, Geoff?
It depends on the thickness of the spine. If the spine was like 3/16 thick and then it was down to 16th, I mean, structurally it's not going to be as, any kind of twisting, that's where your potential for it to snap, that connection between the tang, the thickness of the tang, and the where the ricasso or the blade starts out of the guard. It just seems as though, I mean, I've done 16th inch. I use 16th inch steel for some knives. I generally keep them. I generally keep them. I don't make them thinner than a 16th. I don't, especially for hidden tang, because I am afraid that, like, if it's 16th anyway, it's going to be flexible. If the whole blade's a 16th, I've done 16th inch chef knives. Those hidden tang, kind of Japanese style, whatever we call them, and then they are flexible at the tip. They're usually not flexible at that spot, but I mean, that's where it's going to break if it's going to break. I would think.
My concern is that exact thing. If they did clean up the shoulders of maybe a thicker spine and took that tang down, then potentially, depending on how you treat it in there, if it has sharp corners in that underneath those shoulders, or if it has kind of like softened or rounded shoulders, will make a difference in how that knife interacts, especially if it's at all. I mean, if it's flexed at all. And yeah, like Geoff was saying, it doesn't usually, if it flexes anywhere, it's out at the tip. But in my personal experience, I've found at about a 16th of an inch, things start getting whippy. And if for whatever reason that knife is turned on its side to, say, squish some garlic or something like that, and the person pounds on it and there's a sharp corner in there, there's a potential, especially if it's hardened in there, and even if you've drawn back the temper, that could be a breaking point where the handle just breaks right off the blade, and that would be my big concern.
Yeah, that was my next question, really. Would you run a torch along it just to sort of soften it slightly so it's not so brittle? Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
you can, and it'll help a little bit, but over the life of the knife, I don't feel like I would be really confident in the integrity, like the structural integrity of that knife. Cool. And that would just end up being either a knife for myself that I kept in the shop or gave as a gift, but I wouldn't feel comfortable selling that knife.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a question in the chat, actually, from Walrus Steel. And this is related to what Geoff was saying in his news as well. Do you all have tips for handling production runs efficiently and with resulting cohesive quality results? So tips on production runs and how do you keep that quality good? I'll go first, actually, with this. If you're doing production runs, massive benefit of having multiple grinders set up. Even though you may, it's easy to say, well, I'm just going to do this one part of the grinder on all of this whole batch, and then I'll move on to the next, so I don't have to keep changing my setup. There's always going to be something, whether it's like the inside radius you need a wheel for, you need a flat platen. So I'm always going back and forth between different grinders. So yeah, if you can stretch that, and the same goes with drill presses. If you're doing Corby bolts, have your different bits in different drill presses. Drill presses are super cheap. But when it comes to grinders, we can get you a second grinder, super cheap anyway, and it'll also work with the accessories that you already have for your current grinder. So if you are doing production runs, you want to get yourself a second grinder. And Geoff, which grinder would you get for that?
For sure, I'd get a Broadbeck Ironworks 2x72. Are you crazy? Horizontal, vertical, all sorts of flexibility. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's the perfect grinder. And then you can go to broadbeckironworks.com, get yourself the upgrade to the Mareko Platen by putting in
DP.
promo code. They're calling it Mareko's Platen. we're going to be confusing it. Well, all our little nicknames are going to confuse these motherfuckers. So you want to get yourself that Mareko Platin, and then you put in promo code Knife Talk, and they're already discounting the 10%. We used to do Knife Talk 10. You don't even need that anymore because they're already taken the 10% in account, and you get the upgrade to the Mareko Platin for the promo code Knife Talk at BroadbackIronworks.com.
There we go. There we go.
Something with my grinder, I was just noticing. So I've complained about having back issues a lot because, if I'm standing at the grinder, I'm looking straight down and it kills my spine. And I had the thought because their platins lean forward and back, and we all want a DP.
No, we don't. Keep going. See, this is the problem with these goddamn chat. These morons are, it's all sex talk over there in the comments.
It's a lot of frustrated middle-aged men.
I'm telling you, sterile perverts. That's all.
Promo code DP me.
God damn. What the fuck? Come on, we're trying to do some real shit here. And Suz Forge. Trying to have some. God.
Sorry, Mareko. Where were we?
Very serious right now. All right, so that platen tilt so far forward that I realized I wondered if I could actually tilt that forward and sit in a rolling chair or sit in some sort of chair, and because it's tilted forward, just be looking forward. More directly forward rather than cranking my head down and then just pushing upwards to do the grinding. And so my grinder is set up on a standard like 36-inch high countertop situation, and it works. So
wow.
The next step actually after this is to get it set up and get in there and start playing with that. But I think it's going to be awkward at first, but I think it's going to really help ease the strain that I feel, especially in my neck and my middle back, by not having to crane my head down to look at the platen.
And you could be like a trucker. You could have the whole massaging thing, the beads on your chair. You could have snacks next to you. You could be well away. Very nice. Wait.
My goodness.
Production tips. Yeah. So people want to start doing sort of production runs. So I mentioned, multiple machines set up obviously help. Geoff, I mean, you do a fair amount of these now. What tips do you have?
I have templates for every stage, like how I drill the holes, how I template the handles. I have I'll usually end up when a project's done, I'll have a little box, and it's all the different templates for every different stage. And then that allows me to make sure that if I have to make another one outside of the big batch, I can make one and it's identical. That's huge. And then the same thing is, get yourself a couple drill presses. Fucking around with that chuck is no fun for anybody, and it ain't worth your time. Get yourself a second drill press. Get yourself a second grinder at least, and then stage everything out. But it's always mindset. It's always the discipline of knowing exactly what you're going to do every day, and then giving yourself some really hard deadlines for the day to reach.
Sure.
The goals to reach, and
that was the only thing I would be able to add is just planning ahead.
Yeah. One more thing, actually. I've got another one. So if you are doing a batch, make sure that you complete at least 2 or 3 knives singularly first. Because what you don't want to do is have this sort of order of operations and make a mistake. Then all of a sudden you may have 20, 30 or 100 knives all fucked. So make sure you complete a few knives completely singly on their own and sort of document how you've done that. So then you can go back and repeat that process. You'd want to make one mistake 100 times and bin 100 knives,
You know what's cool is Jimmy DiResta, for his ice picks, he has different little stages for every single one. And there'll be a little jig for this and jig to hold it down to solder it, the ring on it, and every little stage. And it's very much like a production place. It's like an old place I used to work at where there's these jigs and setups to make it exact.
Yeah.
And it thinking about it more like a production shop, and instead of just being in your garage and you just got to make a couple, makes a huge difference. Difference.
Yeah. A call back to a previous show. 5 bananas says Anus. says
what's his name?
From now on, he is now known as Anus Forge. And he says 5 bananas, believe it or not.
There's no way. There's no fucking way. No way.
I don't know if that's his real name or.
That's outrageous. You're going to apologize next episode. He's going to send a DM to me as like customer service.
Department.
He's going to complain. How dare you call me that? I got to change my name. I apologize in advance. And does Forge. It is an anagram, I must say. But it's not my fault. It's his fault.
Anus Forge and Butthole Blades. They need a collaboration, those two. They need a collab.
Never going to get on the big time with this talk.
And obviously they use the DP platen for that, obviously, with those, yeah.
God.
All day.
God. All right.
So we missed Mareko last week for this, which is becoming my favorite section of the show, which is our dilemmas. So should we get in early with them? Because
sure,
they're always good fun.
I have tough scenarios, and I have lots of listener feedback.
Okay.
There's definitely one listener feedback I definitely have to get to, but let's start with a little bit of tough scenarios, guys. This is tough scenarios that you, the listener, and I just want to make one request for the listeners. Stop writing me a novel. It's hard enough. You don't need to backfill. I don't need character development in your scenarios. You just give me like 3 sentences tops, because I know you care, but it's like I can't read them all. All right. This one comes from Justin Blauert. Here's a tough situation. You have the opportunity to work for someone that all your business expenses will be taken care of, and your family will be taken care of financial. You'll be financially taken care of for the work for this opportunity. You're allowed to make whatever you want, but whatever you make, you're not allowed to sign your work, and the credit for your work will go to your employer. You take the deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So basically, he's saying, would you work for someone?
Yeah, basically, that's what working for somebody is. Surely they give you a wage and you provide for your family.
Here's the tough scenario. Would you go to a place where they pay you to make stuff for them, and you can't have any of your information at all, and you have breaks, and you have health insurance and your retirement plan? Would you do that?
Revolutionary idea.
Yeah.
If it pays well, I've got no issue with that.
Yeah, that's your answer for everything.
If it pays well, I'd struggle with it because I haven't worked sort of for the man since I was, teenager almost. So I'd struggle with it, and alarm clocks and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
if the money's good, I'm up for it.
What if they give you nap time?
Friday nap time.
Yes,
like an old pensioner's home. Oh, like my kid's school. They'll go for a nap at the same time in his sleeping room. Yeah. I mean, like anything, if the money's right, it's, if we're talking life-changing money.
What do you think, Mareko?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's especially, that's the main part of the struggle, is just making sure you're making enough money so everybody's happy, everybody's good and comfortable. I think if that's all covered, take the hit.
Well, that's getting a job is work for someone. I mean, it's not that big. The hard part for me is I always think about these things, and I always think, how would I close this whole business down? It's we such a fucking production, So it's like, I've been in situations where I've had to make stuff for other people. Well, that's what a lot of these metal fabricators do, is they're making stuff. Like I remember when we were at the Center for Metal Arts, we made these parts for Geoff Koons, and they were clearly not made by his guys. They were forged eye-rings or something, eye bolts. And it was just like, do we say that we made those? It's the same thing with like all these artists who are assistants. Do they have to say, well, I made that? I need some credit for that. You're getting paid to not take the credit,
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of restaurant knives where they'll request just the restaurant logo and not my logo on there. I've got no issue with that if they're paying money. It's what they want. It's their order, so I've got no issue with that.
It's interesting because, like, especially with our listeners, a lot of these guys, including us, we come from this place where maybe we already had work for somebody. And then we got good at something, and then we started on our own thinking we could do it. And then you kind of like pass through this invisible force field of creative ownership, and like all of a sudden reality is like this weird concept. Like, would you do something for money? This is, it's like it turned all of a sudden now that we're like, these creative makers, true reality is this weird foreign language.
Yeah. It's probably what 70% of the population do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I mean, this question makes it sound like this question is so funny because it's just like so alien. I'm thinking of the toughest scenario I can think of. And it's just like, would you take a job? I mean, it's like, would you go work for someone? Like, yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, is it that bad? All right. So the next one comes from Meredith McDaniel. You have to either make an extra knife / fork forged piece of merchandise, whatever. Basically, you have to make something worth $500 every month and donate that specific money to a charity or a school. You can make batches of these and sell them in clumps, but you have to average $500 per month a year. Would you do it? I might not have should have read this one. So basically, would you like commit to doing, like if you had to do a charity, could you see yourself committing to making something and donating $500 worth of merchandise a month for a year? Could you do that? I don't think I could do that. I'm gonna say I don't think I could do it.
I'd like to have the luxury of being able to do that, because that would mean that I've got the time to be able to do that. And I'd like to think that, if money was no object, I'd love to be able to do that. But no, unfortunately, it's like going into a restaurant and saying, "Hey, can I have this meal for free?" There's a reason we do what we do, and it's to provide for our families. So as much as I'd love to be able to say yes, and it'd be a very noble thing to do, I'm not in a situation where I could do that. Mareko, what are your thoughts?
I've done that
for a year.
I think not every month, but in a clump. But
Right,
since I started making knives as early as I could comfortably afford to start kind of giving back, I've done that, and I've probably donated close to $35,000 worth of materials not materials, but work and money to nonprofits.
Wow. Well, what's your problem, Craig?
Now you're making me feel like shit. Mareko.
I mean,
Thank
Craig,
you
you are pathetic.
I am pathetic.
Then I'm pathetic too, because I'm just like, I don't know if I do a few donations a year. I'm on every year. I do this donation with this what is it? Hearing loss thing. I'm very in tune with I'm very in tune with this hearing loss thing. But yeah, I mean, if we try to allocate a little bit of funds, but I'm like, if any charity's like coming at my door with a baseball bat saying, "Where's your donation?" I don't know if I can handle it. So your donations due. I'm like, all right, hearing loss.
I think that's the thing. It's a very noble thing to do, and I wish I could do it, but scheduling that every month, it probably would be easier to do actually than just randomly every now and again doing it. If you had it as part of your schedule, maybe one day a month you make something that you could maybe donate. That could be a really nice thing, but I'm struggling for hours in shop hours anyway, to be honest with you.
I just got hit up by a local organization that was like, we're doing this local event, and we thought maybe you'd donate a knife to the winner. And I'm like, who are you? What is this? What are you hitting me up for? I'm like, you think I can? I mean, what do you think this is in, like, some store? Like, I got to work here. I got a podcast twice a week, for Christ's sakes. Who's going to take care of that?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm very rarely on Instagram now, because the amount of requests I get like that, I was wondering, with my 10,000 followers, whether you have any units that I could have, and I give you a nice review, and I get multiple of them every day, and I just don't even bother anymore. Reading them is just people, man. You
got a lot of those pigs.
I
have, and even local people too, and it's usually like whoever's running or whoever's in charge of allocating all the different donations. They hit you up like a month, or not even a month, like a couple weeks. Actually, most recent ones been a couple weeks just before their thing. I'm like, No, sorry. Like, I'm not in the position to do that right now. That's not how this works.
Do you ever go to these
Elon Musk
supermarkets and they say,
shit.
would you like to donate $5 to this? Donate $5 to that? And every time I go in, all right, $5, add it onto the bill, add it on the bill. And then once in a while they'll say, oh, would you like to donate $5? And I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm all right. And then
Do
they
you not
just
care
look at
about
me.
the little children, Mr. Fader? Do you
They-
not care?
These people, they weren't my cashier the last 10 times that I said yes. And it's annoying. It's like, look, I want to donate. I donated the last 10 times. Go ask that cashier over there. I'll point over there. Like, look, go ask her. She remembers. I'm like, they're looking at me like, you don't care about people with children with cancer. I'm like, I cared about them the last 3 times I was here. Now you don't believe me? So there you go.
You don't care that much. That's the problem, Geoff. You don't care that much.
I had a funny thing. We go to the pet store once because we got all these goddamn pets, and I went to the pet store, and they always have at the end, would you like to donate $2 to the kittens that? And I'm like, no, I don't want to donate to the kittens. I don't want to donate to the kittens. No, I don't want to. And they look at me, and then when I come home, my wife loves pets. She said, did you donate to the kittens? And I'm like, no, I didn't donate to the kittens. So why didn't you donate to the kittens? I'm like, the kittens will be fine. Trust me. The $2 is going to go very, very, not my $2 is going to go very far. Trust me.
Yeah. You'd want that putties for life coming up on your credit card statement, do you? You have to explain that one.
You should have named your band that. You should have named your band that.
Pussies for life.
Okay. Bring him Kindle. Setting us up for a long one. Question/scenario. The government comes down on knife makers, saying that in order to make knives, you need to enroll in continuing education to make a certain number of hours worth of classes from a fellow bladesmith, or maybe even a master bladesmith, in order to continue selling knives to the public. What bladesmith or master bladesmith would you be taking your first class from, and why? And before you answer this question, this is what the dilemma should have been. If you could take a class from another knife maker, who would it be? Some of you guys,
multiple times.
Some of you guys are a little bit too much about the government cracking down on XYZ. You got to calm down. I'm begging you. You got to calm down. If I ask for a simple question or tough scenario, I don't need the tough scenario to be by this fictitious government that's going to crack down on knife makers, because clearly that's who they're going to be cracking down on. Just ask the question. You have to take a class from a knife maker. Who's it going to be? Round robin. Come on, guys, fast.
Mareko.
Lin Ray.
Fucking good one. Good answer.
Neil, because I've heard about his place now, and it sounds like a great place to have a nap on. Yeah,
that's a good idea too. That's a good idea too. Lin, he got me with Lin. Lin was the one. I would go with. Let's do it together. I'm going to go with Mareko. We're going to go see Lin Ray. How you like them apples? There you go. And the government is now perfectly happy. Everybody, the government. This is like, I mean, the government. Stop it with the government. All right. So Montezuma Ltd says, here's a tough scenario. A customer brings this. I like this one. A customer brings in a knife that they're adamant that you made. You made this knife. He comes in. You made this knife, and it's similar style to yours, but you clearly didn't make it, and do have a good idea who did make it. They want to place a very, very large order for the restaurant chain. Do you take the order and make the knives, or do you pass it to the guy who made the original one? I like that question. You made this knife. I didn't make this knife. I know you made this knife, and I have a big order that I want you to fill because I know you made this knife.
This is a good one. Go up, Mareko. You can go first this time.
No, I pass that on all day.
Yeah. You're making
Giving
me look
away
bad
money
again,
and
Mareko.
giving away money and giving away good free karma.
Here's the thing. I would tell them that it's not my knife, and I'd insist this isn't my knife. But I'd say, if you want, I could make a very similar knife, and I'll happily take your money. But I'd make it quite clear that that wasn't my knife. And it's up to them then whether they want to go back to the original. But I'd give them a compelling case to order with me.
That's right.
If that made sense.
Look,
yeah.
I didn't make this knife, but I want to make you more.
Exactly. That's exactly. Yeah.
I want to make you more. I want to make you more. You don't think I made this knife? You think I made this knife? I didn't, but I'm not going to dissuade you from feeling the way you feel. If you want, I'm telling you I didn't make it. I'm telling you I didn't make it, but I will make more. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. The last one's too long. I can't read it. It's just too long. I'm sorry.
It's Griffith's handmade knives, isn't it? He's in the chat saying, "Read my long one. Read my long one."
Okay, I'll read it because the guy who did write it is in the chat. This one comes from Knives by Jordan. Here's a scenario. You get 2 commissions and they both pay your standard rate. So 2 commissions, there's 2 commissions and they're the same price. Except you have to turn one down. Okay? There's 2 options. They pay the same, you got to pick one. Knife number 1, you have little to no creative control, and the knife is overall uninspired, but nothing you're proud of. But the customer is a chef that you have an undying respect for. Very few people will see this knife, and those that do won't take a second look. Okay, that's knife number 1.
Yep.
And knife number 2, you're given full creative control, and the knife turns out to be your masterpiece, but the customer is Salt Bae. The knife increases your name recognition exponentially, but you will forever be known as the guy who made the knife for Salt Bae. You will have made the Salt Bae knife. Which do you choose?
I believe there's no such thing as bad publicity in that situation. And if you're making Salt Bae's knife, you're going to be seen by a lot of people. And let's face it, a lot of people are quite happy to pay $300 for a gold encrusted steak. They've got money to burn, so I'll happily make a knife for Salt Bae.
Now, before you're finished, will you solemnly raise your hand and say, once you make that Salt Bae knife, you will also donate some of your money because you're such a cheapskate? Now you've accepted all the money and refused to give any donations. You know? Pussy for life. That's what you're giving to.
I'm not a working charity, unfortunately. I've got my own things to sort out here, my own sort of family to look after. And I'd love to be in the position where I could donate to other charities, but I don't want to sound like a dick and say I pay taxes and all the rest of it because we all do. But financially, I'm not set enough to make big donations. I'm afraid. You guys make me feel bad every week for this. Really bad.
And
You're questioning my life choices. Mareko, let's go to you. Are you doing the Salt Bae knife or are you doing the unknown chef with the non?
If it's gonna be my masterpiece, why wouldn't I want to make it? And Salt Bae already has one of my knives.
Ah, there we go.
I'm taking off. Look at you. That was a giant humble brag.
And no fucking publicity came from it. So
really, what a pig! What a pig he is. I'm so sick of that humping the meat he does and the slapping it. It's so disgraceful.
It does make me laugh.
And squeezing the meat. It's so gross.
Yeah.
You know what knife he's got? He's got the one that he's got though. I think it's one of my knives that you ever saw at JB Prince. He's got that knife.
JB Prince knife. Yeah, that was a slick knife. This is the first one I ever saw yours. I saw that before I actually met you.
Yeah.
He went in and went for the high ticket item, huh? I'll have to talk to Tim about that.
I guess somebody bought it as a gift for him.
Nice.
I've seen it in his possession, but I've never seen him use it.
You think you can see him like slapping it against the? Can you see him doing his like fruity move,
grinding up against it?
He could be in Las Vegas slapping strippers' asses with it for all I care.
Have mercy! Have mercy! Have mercy!
Dumping bottles of Dom Perignon down his chest. I don't fucking care.
I think we need to do Griffith's handmade knives dilemma because he's mentioned it a number of times.
Craig, you're setting a poor precedence right now. He's complaining a lot.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I know. Hey, Griffith's handmade. Breathe through it. Come on, man.
Let's keep it for the after show. He's got to stick around then, hasn't he?
Let's just read it. We're here. Let's just read it. I got it in front of me. I got him in front of me. All right. The three of you finally meet, and it happens to be at Blade Show. All of you brought a show-stopping piece for the best chef's knife. It's a big deal this year as the 3 celebrity chefs and 3 well-known knife makers are judging. The winner will get great exposure, taking their business to the next level. Exposure. That's
that word, eh?
Exposure is already like setting off tripwires that maybe this isn't a good question, by the way. The design choice is gaudy. The dilemma is all right. The dilemma is one of the knives is ugly as fuck. The design choice is gaudy, over the top, and showy. What's more is a minor flaw that's driving you nuts, but it can't be fixed before judging. You know the knife maker judges will tear this knife apart, yet the celebrity chef's judges will love it. Do you say something with the intention of saving your friend from embarrassment, or do you remain silent because of the risk of sounding hurtful, petty, and jealous? You happy with that one, Griffith? Reddit.
Mareko, you go first. Go on.
I think we have enough of a relationship that we can. I would hope that if one of you noticed something on my work, that you would say something to me.
That's a very nice thing to say.
I would probably still submit it, but I think it's good to have other eyes on your work.
So what if you see a fault in one of our knives? Are you bringing it up to us?
I would be very diplomatic about it.
Yeah. Oh, my man. I love diplomacy.
Noted. Never show Mareko my knives. Okay.
No.
I'm so anti-confrontational. Like if there's any chance of there being any sort of confrontation, I shy away from it so badly to my own disservice a lot of the time. So I don't think I would. I don't think I'd say anything. And it's not because I'd want to drop them in it, so and embarrass them in front of judges. It's just that I wouldn't want to bring up to them, whether it's you guys or anybody else. So I'd keep quiet, and just in the back of my head, I'll be, I can see a little fault there. I don't think I'd bring it up. But I'm not used to sort of mingling at knife shows where people sort of critique each other's work. It's not something I've ever done before. So I think I'd have a problem with it, to be honest with you.
I would probably fall back to my my younger days of kind of not thinking at first. I see maybe that's a flaw, and then the other part of me is like, maybe you don't know what you're talking about. My dad, my dad would be like talking to me behind my back, saying, "You don't know what you're talking about. Don't say anything. You've no idea. Maybe he knows what he's talking. Maybe he knows better than you." And I would doubt myself, and I wouldn't want to make someone upset because I would doubt myself so much that I'd be like, if I say something and I'm wrong, I'm just an asshole. And if I say something and I'm right, it's a slimmer chance. It's a very slim chance. I don't know if I could do that one. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be put up in that situation anyway. I hate these goddamn competitions. They find them to be just, you can't compare these things. Some of them are just like, I hate it.
I've yet to make a knife myself where I'm 1,000,000% happy with my own work anyway. I'll always see something, and maybe others wouldn't even spot it. There's always something, and it may be something completely slight. I've never made a knife where this is perfect, So I'm sure other people think that about their work too. So having to bring that up, I think could be a problem for me.
I have never made a perfect sculpture. I've never made a perfect painting. Anytime I make anything, I've always been like, I didn't see that. Or I made sculptures that I believed in 100%. And then once I stood back and finished and installed it, I was just like, that fucking part's too small, or that fucking part's too big, or that didn't work. Yeah. And it's like, I always am just like, I have a terrible opinion of, sometimes I don't have the bigger picture in that regard. So it would be hard for me to be like, come in there with it would have to be like the Corby bolt hole is showing, it would have to be something like,
obvious. Yeah.
Yo, that one I'm 100% sure about. You got a bad Corby bolt there or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take this time to talk about one of our sponsors.
Combat Abrasives makes the world's best abrasive belts for knife makers. Available in any size at unbelievable prices. Go take a look at combatabrasives.com and get 15% off with promo code KnifeTalk15. Do it now.
Do it now. 15% off your order at combatabrasive.com. Go and do it. You know it makes sense. Shall we do another question?
May I just address something with
Sure.
our audience? We get a lot of DMs, and sometimes I have to erase them. So when you think that I'm holding on to everybody's DMs, I can't, because it doesn't allow me to be on top of all the questions. So Mr. Griffith's Handmade, I don't know what you sent before, but I'm sorry. I mean, it's like I have to get rid of these things as fast as I see them and make a decision. I can't like Rolodex everybody's thing. There's too many of them. So I apologize for not reading the one that you wanted me to read. Editors don't.
Let's have a look. I'll take another question here. Butthole Blades. Terrible name. Another question. How close to the final shape do you forge your knives? I've heard people say to leave some fat for the grinder, but I've also seen folks forging amazing finished looking pieces that just need a bit of bevel refinement and an edge. Curious what the consensus is. So I'm out of this one, so I don't forge any blades at all.
Whoa. How are you out of this?
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, I may have forged.
Remember how every time we talk about blacksmithing, you get so offended, and now we're just like, you're the center stage on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't forge blades. All my blades are stock removal. So let's go first. Okay, let's go to Mareko. How much fat are you leaving on your blades after forging?
For my blades, so most of my work is Damascus, and there is kind of a layer on the outside of decarb that you have to account for and get through down to the clean steel. Now, the decarb might be part of the aesthetic. Like Alain Blanc does these beautiful brute de forge Damascus chef's knives, and it's part of the aesthetic. But if you're trying to get through that, you have to account for that. And it's usually like 20 thousandths ish. I don't know. It's more of like an experience thing. You just got to practice. But I found that I can actually forge pretty close to dimension. Like I'll take my edge down to about a 16th of an inch and like a full distal taper out to the tip at about 16th of an inch and smooth it all out in between. But you still, until you get to that point, you really want to, you just got to practice. I don't know, being conservative, I guess, because along with that, especially when it comes to the Damascus, is as you forge closer to dimension, you introduce hammer marks and distortion into the blade that maybe is intentional, but also often can be unintentional, or especially when you're working with a mosaic Damascus with a random pattern blade. That's desirable. You want that kind of activity and that distortion. But in mosaics, the goal is to try to keep it as clean of an image while still forging a blade. It's a little trickier to do with mosaics for sure. And if you don't feel confident with that, there's no harm in at least forging the profile, and that gives you plenty to grind through after you're done with your forging. Now, when it comes to monosteels, I think you can get away with forging quite a bit closer. Because you're not doing any kind of etching on the blade, you're not going to kind of see some of that, what would look like decarb, be revealed on the surface of the blade. And especially if it's going to have, just a nice satin finish, you can forge pretty damn close. And you see guys like Lynn Ray, like we mentioned earlier, Mike Quesenberry, who's an extraordinary forger. Our friend Andrew Wozniak is a badass forger too. And they can take it super tight, but a lot of times they're also working with monosteel, and they can afford to take it that close because they're not going to have to etch the blade basically and reveal that, there's some decarb on the surface. Like, honestly, that doesn't really matter. But when you're working with Damascus, if it's not part of the aesthetic, it looks unintentional and it looks like a mistake. And especially like you can get big blobs of decarb regions in the Damascus and it looks like shit basically. So if you're doing Damascus, basically you want to leave a little bit more fat, you can kind of trim it down a little bit and forge a little bit closer to dimension.
That's pretty much what I would have said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geoff, anything to add?
Oh, no, that's what I would have said too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you if you get the Jason Knight his first forging class at Knight Forge Studios, he forges the elemental knife and he leaves a lot of material to just grind out. Like especially in the handle, like the blade is very close to dimension, but there's some trimming, and he forges out enough in the back of the handle that you can clean it up on the grinder. So I think that, Mareko said it the best. It's better to be conservative. You're not getting brownie points especially if you're starting out.
Yeah.
Forging, you're not getting brownie points if you make it look bad.
Yeah. Okay, cool. While Geoff brings up any more either dilemmas or whatever the next section is going to be, I'm going to talk about the Dharma Steel Chef Invitational, which is coming up quick, November the 13th. For those who don't know what the Chef Invitational is, they get a bunch of makers who use Dharma Steel, and they have like a booth. Now, this used to be a real show where you could physically go and it'd be like a knife show, and you'd be able to buy these special knives. But now it's all virtual, and we did a live show last time, and it was one of our better shows. It was a real good time. So they have a bunch of makers who use Dharma Steel, and I'm just looking to the list here. There's Michael West, Kevin Cross, Fingal Ferguson, Galen Garrettson, Mert Tanzu. There's all these great makers, all using Dharma Steel and making these great knives. So put that in your diary, the 13th of November. I'm pretty sure we're going to do a special show for it as well. But also, if you want to be using Dharma Steel yourself, you can get it cheaper. If you register on dharmasteel.se, which is their website, if you register and you use Knife Talk as a promo code, you'll get 10% off your order. And that can amount to a lot of cash. So yeah, use the best sort of stainless Dharma Steel there is, I suppose, and you go and get yourself that discount. Cool, and we shall see you all at the show on November the 13th. Geoff, what we got coming up next? Any dilemmas? Any tough situations?
I had actually some listener feedback I wanted to read you guys. This is sending listener feedback. Apparently, listener feedback is also in the comments, so feel free to irritate me. It's fine. First one comes from John Robison. Hey guys, started listening to the show and just wanted to say you guys rock. Really awesome having some good knife talk on constantly. I'm from the big island of Hawaii.
Wow.
Look at that. And we only have very few bladesmiths, and only ones here are well-known and really busy, so it's hard to make contact. It's awesome to listen to rad conversations with fellow makers while I work in my shop. Thanks for the tips. We're with you, John.
Nice.
What's that guy's? His name's John. John what?
John Robson. John Robison.
Okay.
So the next one is an anonymous feedback.
Oh, brace yourself.
No. This was based on our last conversation, our last episode where we were talking about. Remember the last episode? Somebody asked a question about, do you change culture for the marijuana, finding good welders and marijuana rules, and are you worried about? Remember that question?
Yeah,
you thought was crazy because you didn't understand that. So the last episode, it was basically like, we can't find good welders, and there's recreational marijuana. We have a rule against using marijuana, and you can get drug tested. And do we relax this to get welders? And do we blah blah blah?
Yeah.
Hey guys, just listening to the latest episode and the part where Geoff and Craig talk about the companies having issue finding welders because of their drug policies and drug screenings really struck me. What Geoff said about his old boss rushing him to the hospital for a cut seems so alien to me. I work in a metal shop in Italy, and I can't tell you how many times I've witnessed stuff that would have landed the owners in court in the U.S. Guys getting metal splinters in their eyes from using angle grinders, going to the hospital to get them removed and getting back to work an hour afterwards. Guys showing up high as a kite. Guys smoking weed on an installation site. And recently, a colleague fell from a ladder 2 stories up and got beaten and bloody and kept working until the end of the day.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
So,
Oh boy.
Wow.
yeah,
I think a lot of what I was talking about last week, I think, was down to sort of insurances and stuff like that. That because that sort of litigious culture you got over there. But I think we need a happy medium of the two. There's a couple of things that strike me over here that since being in France that I've seen, and it's just crazy. So like roofers, people working up on a rooftop. You quite often see them here, barefoot, no harness, just up on the roof. And I'm talking in the baking heat here, and we're talking black slate. So these things are boiling hot, and they're just throwing tiles back and forth to each other. With a busy street below, and nothing is cordoned off. There's people walking below, and then you'll go to a restaurant lunchtime, and you'll see all these same people then like drinking wine. For a 3-hour lunch, drinking wine. Then they go back to do an afternoon shift. They're back up on the roof. No harnesses, no ropes, barefoot, no hard hat, throwing these tiles across to each other. And, things like that are pretty extreme. So, yeah, I think maybe our health and safety laws, they are very lax here. Maybe they should be slightly tightened, maybe.
Well, last week I kind of forgot to mention, it just slipped my mind that it wasn't a sue. You don't really sue but that much. What you'll get is if you hurt yourself on a job site working for the company and you hurt yourself, you can get workman's comp. That means each company pays when they have employees, they pay into a workman's comp, and then they can the workers can get the workman's comp, and it's kind of from the government, kind of from the insurance company, and then you can just you can get paid to not work. If you're not well, and basically get hurt on the job.
Like a benefit, yes, yeah,
right.
Yeah. That happens obviously in the UK and stuff as well. Yeah, okay.
Actually, I left my last shop to work for a guy, and it was
you worked for a guy. Outrageous!
I know, it's crazy, right? Totally
outrageous,
totally crazy. I was at a shop. I left the shop to work for a guy who was starting this company up, and then I worked for the company for a few months, less than 6 months. And I was let go because it wasn't working. This guy was in over his head, and it was really becoming a problem. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll just go on unemployment until I figure something out. But the problem was because I only worked for this company for 3 months. It wasn't long enough for me to get his workman's comp. So I would have gotten the workman's comp coming out of my last shop that I quit. So when I found this out, I withdrew it because I didn't want that workman's comp to come from my former boss that I left. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No workman's comp, unemployment. Right, so I felt like it would have been shitty to take the unemployment from 2 jobs ago that I quit, rather than, it just was a time. It was just the fact that you need like 6 months at this place before they get the unemployment.
Yeah.
So
yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's keep going. All of a sudden, I'm just like, oh, wait, that's right. I'm doing a bit. Dear Banana Talk. This one comes from Dustin Sheffield. Congratulations on the 200th episode. It's been great from the start. My favorite thing to listen to, and now on Friday is my favorite thing to watch. I even like you guys better than a spoonful of zinc on a hot summer day. To celebrate, I'm going to go through all 200. Can't wait for some more great laughs. Cheers.
Oh, wow. That's some time commitment there.
Yeah. This one comes from Calorvy. Sorry, man. Or woman. I'm sorry. Whoever you are, I'm with you. Hey, breathe through it. Hey, guys. The tough scenario bit needs a better name, in my opinion. Every time you guys do it, which is I thoroughly enjoy, I can't help but think that since you've discontinued, do you know what you should do? The bit we used to have is, do you know what you should do? You could rename tough scenarios. Do you know what you would do? I think that works. What do you think? That's just my 2 cents. Love the show. Thanks for the entertainment every week. I don't want these bits to be confusing. Like if you have the names just one little word, all of a sudden our listeners get confused quite easily.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough scenarios are fine. Yeah. Like bold.
Eric Carnival in the chat on Facebook has just said he got bitten his peen by a 120-pound Rottweiler while making a delivery, and his boss asked if I could finish my shift. Wow. Bitten in the peen.
I like it. Funnier when you say it. You know that?
Really?
It's funnier. Yeah, it's funny when you say it.
Bitten in the peen. Do you think that could be the
new
title for the show?
Or no, it could be the name of your band.
Bitten in the peen.
Another
Peen
one
bites.
for your band.
Peen biter.
Rottweiler bit my peen. Whatever you guys want to do. You want to keep going with this, or do you want to go with questions?
Should we go back to
I
a
got
few
a question.
questions? We haven't done questions really for weeks, have we? So let's clear some out. Let's have
Yeah,
a
I got a
look.
question I'd like to read.
Sure.
Okay, this one from Caleb Creek Cutlery. He says, "Hey guys, thanks for the great podcast. I have a question. I'm running a Broadback 2x72 and I'm looking for a radius platen attachment. I've checked Bill Banky and his platen has holes at 6 inches and 6.75 inches. That's the difference between the holes. The Broadback platen holes are 5.25 inches. Does anyone make a direct bolt-on attachment for the Broadback, or should I just make an adapter? Thanks for the help." Geoff, you have one of Bill's platens? I can't remember
do.
if you got one of those.
I do. I haven't put it on my Broadback, but I sent this guy a message, and what I suggested was to just drill holes that will in your platen that will accept it, because the radius platens that Bill makes are threaded, so you can just figure out where the holes are, and then you can, just a couple through holes won't kill you. And then the Broadback Ironworks grinder also has front plates that are replaceable. So you could in theory, you could have, just when you're not using the radius platen, you could just have a regular plate on. What he ended up telling me was he thanked me, but then he reached out to Bill, and Bill might be making an adjustment so that they'll all work.
Okay. Cool. So what I have done, I have a Bill Banky, and what I did, whoa, there we go. I'm showing it on the camera right now. So part of what I was doing in Hawaii was teaching Neil some of my S grinding stuff. And what I did for when I came back, so I left him my S grinding setup, which was a platen that I had built myself. Even though I had a Bill Banky, I was using this old platen that I had built for myself. And the way I designed it is that it has a couple tabs at the top, just tack welded at the top, and a couple tabs tack welded on the side of it. So I can just slap it right on top of the flat platen. And then the tension of the belt, the pressure of the belt running across it and everything will hold it on there. So when I got back, I set up the Banky to do the exact same thing. Whoop, there we go. So it's got tabs on the back, tabs on the side, and it literally just slaps right at the flat platen. And when I'm done, it does get hot because it's excess friction, XX. Oh my God, I can't fucking talk right now.
XX friction.
Jesus.
That's the next name. You're banned.
Friction, because the platen is sticking out. So it gets a lot more friction. It gets really fucking hot. So, but by just having it set up this way, I can slap it on and then take it right back off when I'm done without messing with bolts and wrenches or any of that stuff. That was really bad brain fart right there.
That's okay. I have a question for you. Have you ever worked with a chiller plate?
I've not. I've never used any kind of water-cooled plates. I don't think they're a bad idea. They can get really expensive, and the setup is a little more elaborate than I'm ready for right now.
Is it basically so cold water is running through that plate, and then it's not making friction, so you don't have to you don't have to dip your blade so often after it's heat treated and you're grinding?
Yeah, it keeps the platen cold because it'll have like an in and an out for water, and it'll just have lots of channels, so the water is just constantly moving through and rotating through and keeping cool. I've never used one, but yeah, it sounds like a really cool idea. But I don't know, it just seems to as if maybe it's one more thing that could, potentially go wrong. A grinders are pretty simple in its operation, and to have all these things, maybe it just overcooking the egg a bit, literally.
Yeah, from what I've understood them, they're mostly for keeping the platen cold or cool, so it's not deteriorating the belt. But they still the belt is what's creating the friction in the steel and heating up the blade. So the platen being cold doesn't necessarily transfer coolness to the blade, because it's still creating a lot of friction when you're grinding.
Adam from Build Sharp's listening. I know you use a chiller plate and you're going to send me a message. So send me a message and I'll read it. I'll figure out. We'll be able to answer the question.
Adam, send him a message real quick. I would be curious what Adam's take is on the chiller plate.
He's a smart dude. He's a really, really smart dude, and he makes beautiful knives. If you're not following Build Sharp, shame on you. Shame on you.
I've been really admiring his folders lately.
Dude, his folders are nuts. His
Yeah,
folders
very
are nuts.
Okay, I got a question here from Evan and Catherine Johnson. Is there a good resource for what defines a knife style? For example, what makes a Gyuto different from a Santoku? This is something that I can't get my head around either, because a lot of these knives look very, very similar to me, but they have these names, particularly in sort of Japanese culture as well. I don't quite understand them all because it's not the kind of knife that I make. But yeah, I mean, where do you go to learn these things? Is there any sort of reference online?
What do you think, Mareko?
Well, there's that Tim Haywood book, right?
Yeah.
A while back that came
Knife.
out.
Yes, yeah.
It's a beautiful book. But generally speaking, like a Gyuto, a Santoku, a Tsujihiki, a Petty, they all have, generally speaking, the same profile, but the different names refer to a different length range, basically. So a Santoku is somewhere between 5 inches and 7 inches. And a Gyuto is basically from 7 inches to 9 inches. A Tsujihiki is from 9 inches to 11 inches. And so they're basically the same profile. And yeah, the slicer ends up being a little bit narrow, and so is the petty knife. But the profile is basically the same. At least the cutting edge profile is basically the same. The distance from the spine changes based on the kind of usage. But it also is a reflection of the type of material that they're cutting through. So the a Santoku and a chef's knife, or the Gyuto, are chef's knives basically, and so they're cutting tall materials sometimes, like fruits and vegetables and boneless protein and stuff like that. And obviously the other knives are capable of that, but for a slicer you typically want it to be a thinner blade because it's going through a lot of meat. And then the petty's it's just a smaller blade. It'd be weird to have a 4-inch long, 2-inch tall blade for
that style of cutting. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look. What other questions do we have?
I tend to not use. The only thing is I tend to not like. I try not to pretend like I really know a lot of these things. The closest I go is I go with a K-tip, which is, a very kind of like, I don't know. I probably have like some sort of, I've somehow probably, culturally appropriated or something like that. But I really try to stay away from using words that I don't know.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I'm just like, why not just keep it easy?
Call it the Admiral. Call it, give it a good name.
I did that. I have the Admiral. I try to name these fucking things.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Give them your own names.
I get once in a while, I'll get a message from someone and it'll be like, I have this Sugahigi, and then it's kind of like a left-handed Hiawacha or something. It'll be like all these Hayayaba and all this fucking shit. And I'm just like, and I know it's kind of very similar to my, Yabba Dabba Do. And it's all very like, and I'm just like, we just talk normal. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know about your Hayayaba, and I don't know any about this stuff.
Okay. Next question. Kevin Miser, what folders do you guys carry or own? So do you carry a folder, Mareko? Do you carry a knife with you?
I do. It's right here.
You do?
This is a knife built by Lorian Arnold. It was the Bangalore design, and this is manufactured by Boker. It's just a nice little flipper. It's my everyday carry. It's a great design, and Lorian collaborated with Bruce Bingenheimer to make the first one. Bruce, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but it's a great design. I love the knife, and I love carrying it on me.
Nice. Geoff, yourself?
I'm waiting for my H knife.
You're waiting for somebody to say that.
I mean, I'm waiting for the H knife, but it's like I can't cut anything anymore because I have nothing in my pocket, So
they're en route. They are en route.
I mean, I don't mean whoever makes them. don't know. Who
I
makes
don't
them.
know. I don't know.
Just, I'm in this situation where I was told I was going to get one. And I'm just sitting here like I can't cut shit. I got,
They're
what the fuck am I going to do here? I mean, you come up and you picked this question. P.S. You knew I was going to say.
Oh, I know exactly. Yeah. The first 20, by the way, they've sold. So the ones with the serial number have sold. So if you order one now, they have no serial.
So which ones do we get?
You don't have cereals.
Oh,
unfortunately.
Okay.
That's
Get,
why I made the H.
Or anything?
Sorry, what was that?
So we don't get KTP on it or anything.
It may have something
special?
on it. That'll be a surprise when you see it. They will be different to the production ones because they do have a little something on them for you guys.
8 bananas. I hope it has 8
banana.
Yes,
that would be cool.
8 bananas. 8 bananas.
That was the reason that I made the H, simply because most folders I find they're quite aggressive looking, and if you pull one of those out, people are going to sort of question you as what the hell is that? But the H is very much a sort of a take on a gentleman's knife, I suppose. But yeah, I don't carry one daily with me, and in fact,
sure.
I was going to say I'm not wearing any pants at the moment because I've just got out of bed. So
get the stand up right now.
Stand
up right now. Stand up right now. I want to know. You're the man.
It's nice to meet Baby Maker.
You are the man. He came down in his underpants. This is outstanding. This is radio right now. God bless you, Craig Lockwood. You could have lied.
Pants. Yeah.
Barefoot, no pants.
Didn't make the effort.
Outrageous.
I want to talk about Texas Farrier Supply because because I want to change the subject really quickly.
Did you see what Anus Swartz just wrote?
What did he write?
Demonetized.
Oh, geez. Show my pale, pasty legs.
Jesus Christ.
Texas Farrier Supply. If you're a maker, which most of the people who are listening to this, or maybe you're watching live, if you're a maker, you're going to need to buy your stuff from somewhere, and where better to buy it from Texas Farrier Supply? They've got a whole section there for the knife maker, and if you use Knife Talk 10, you'll get 10% off. And do you know what they sell? They also sell Indasa Rhino Wet, which is the best sandpaper out there. So yeah, if you're doing any sort of hand sanding, anything like that, you're going to need Indasa. So go to Texas Farrier Supply to get it. TexasFarrierSupply.com, and take a look at all the stuff they have for knife makers, and make sure you use Knife Talk 10. Well, this is a show for the ladies, this one, obviously. If I'm
seriously, OnlyFans. I had no idea.
Shall we call it a day, do you think?
Paywall.
Yeah. Yeah. Shall we call it
This is the reason why people should watch this live. I was about to say we should fucking stop this live thing, but then you show the goods, and then it's just like, hey, why wouldn't you come watch this on YouTube Live on Fridays?
I'll show a bit more each week. It's what we'll see the listenership
please.
maybe go down rather than up, but yeah.
Jeez, we got listeners. They've all been they've all had vasectomies, and you're like showing them the goods. I mean, it's like
this is what you could have had.
You want to talk about depraved. This is like butting your head against the wall.
Oh, Griffith's handmade. The Rottweiler must have bitten it off. CS Rocky Designs in the chat has just said he's just ordered from Texas Farrier Supply. So thanks for the recommendation and thanks for the discount. Well, we're here to please.
Oh, clearly. I mean, you can't get much better than that. I mean, Jesus.
Craig shows his balls, then ends the podcast.
That's right. That's how you do it. That's the right way to go.
We're done with that. But I think that is a show. I think that was a solid show. Shall we call it a day?
Sure.
That's good.
Thank you all for listening.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
Yeah, we don't need to do all that again. Okay, cool. That went okay. Connection held up.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for doing that. I did not expect you to do that. I didn't even have to do that. Ballsy is the right word.
I didn't expect it. No.
No.
Yeah, that was good. So we didn't do health talk this week.
You want to hear the last of my humiliations?
Go on. Then.
Is probably the most humiliating, which is like shocking. because I feel badly about it. I had I have gone to this dentist for like 16 years and she's great. And I really, my wife and kid go there. We created quite a good relationship and it's, they're very good to us.
Oh,
so
just as a side point before you go any further.
Go ahead.
I'm enjoying your Sundays lately on Instagram where you're with your kid and you answer questions. They're always good fun.
She did that. We did that once and she was because she doesn't do social media. She does it with her friends, but and I said, why don't you just help me answer some of these? I was driving or something. I said, answer this question for me.
Yeah.
And then she just started fooling around. And then I was just like, why don't we do this more often? And she had a good time. And actually somebody wanted me to have her on the Full Blast podcast. And I asked her and she was honored. She wants to come on so for her birthday, I think we're going to have her on the podcast.
That would be
cool.
It's
going to be me and the kid and we're going to talk. It's going to be, I'm more nervous about that. I've had some good opportunities come in. Like I talked to Jason Knight called me out of the blue. We started talking earlier this week and he's going to come on. I've had I had Jimmy DeRest on and I have Alec might come back on at some point, but I'm more nervous about talking to my kid because it's just like, how do I do this?
Are you going to make her cry? That's always the goal. We know that.
I mean, it seems that. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know where that came from. I guess I get people real comfortable. No, I told her, I said, you're not allowed to cry. So we're going to have her on at some point. She liked doing it, but it was also got it was fine. We had a good time. We'll do it every so often.
It's fun to see you having fun. Yeah, it's cool.
So I went to the dentist and I went for a cleaning and then they did the x-ray and they said and then I had this new hygienist and the dentist comes in and the hygienist says, you tell him because I didn't tell him. Will you tell him? And the dentist says, you didn't tell him? And I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. And they says, you have a cavity. I'm like, all right, well, that's not the biggest deal in the world. And they're like, it's the very, very back. Like I had my wisdom teeth removed and it's behind there. So I'm like, oh, fuck. And I said, is it going to be a big deal? She's like, well, it's going to be uncomfortable because to get back there, it's kind of a production. So she scheduled me to come in on Monday. So I went on Monday and, they sent me a message saying, you think you could come earlier? I'm like, yeah, I'll come as early as you want. So I got in there, I sat down, we were having a nice conversation and they're very they know how to handle me because they laugh a lot. So if I make even the, meagerest of jokes, they're going to laugh. And that's really bad for a narcissist like me, because if all of a sudden I know that you're going to fucking laugh, I'm going to give you my A game. I'm going to give you at least my B shit. I'm going to do everything I can to keep the ball rolling. So we're laughing and it's way back there. So at one point the assistant's got to use a mirror and pry open my mouth. And then at one point they're like, can you open your mouth wider? And then they're like, do you want a dental stop? It's like a dental, it's almost like a car jack basically. And it basically put it in your back and it just opens your jaw up. And then you're not physically doing it. It's holding your mouth open. Yeah. So she's in there with the fucking Dremel bit. And then the other woman's, so my mouth is wide open and then cranked open this way. I'm so uncomfortable. It smells like burning teeth. And it's just, it's awful, terrible. And then the suction thing isn't going where it's supposed to go. So there's these drills for your teeth have water activated. So there's water and tooth dust going everywhere. And they're not taking all the water out. And I'm starting to drown. And then she says, stop doing that. You're making me uncomfortable. I'm like, and then I pull it out. I'm like, you got to fucking get the sump pump down in there and you got to get it. You're drowning me. Next thing you know, you're going to pinch my nose. And she goes, if you don't stop, I'm going to pinch your nose. If there's water in there and pinch your nose, you're done. So I started doing it again. And she's fucking pinched my nose. And I'm like, we got to figure this all out. It was getting too funny and jokey and too whatever. So it was 2 hours because it was so hard to get back there. It was too long. And they gave me tons of shots. And I was just like, God, I'm never going to get the fuck out of here. And it was miserable. And it was just awful. And then when we're done, they get the thing out and they get the thing. And then the hygienist is getting real comfortable with crowbarring half my mouth open. And it was just really, really, it was a fucking terrible. And I said, next time, I said afterwards, next time knock me out. So I'm talking to the dentist. They get everything out. They're putting the x-ray back in my mouth. And I don't know what happened. The assistant was too comfortable putting things in my mouth, or I don't know what. There wasn't any like just. So I'm talking to the dentist. She put something in my mouth, and I bit her. And the assistant says, "Oh, you bit me." That's the last thing you want to hear a person say when you're an adult. Is. Oh, you bit me. Yeah. She says, "Oh," and now all of a sudden I am mortified. I am mortified that another person alerted me that I had bitten them. I was mortified. And
at least you had your pants on this time, not like last time.
I mean, I wasn't mortified. I mean, they should have been mortified. I was mortified, but I wasn't, I wasn't accused of something. I wasn't accused of something. So the nurse, she backs off, and then I said, "I'm so sorry." And then I said to the dentist, "I'm so terribly sorry." And she says, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." And then the nurse, and I said to the assistant, I said, "I'm so sorry about that. I'm mortified." And she goes, "You bit really hard." And I was like, "I'm so sorry." And she was like, "It's okay." And then the dentist is laughing. She thinks it's funny. And I turn to the dentist. I'm like, "I feel badly about this." I mean, it wasn't just like I just clamped down on her. It was just, she was putting shit in my mouth and I was talking. So my tooth just like my teeth hit her. Didn't come down. It wasn't like, I was like talking and she put her fucking hand in my mouth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wasn't paying attention, obviously, and bit her. So I left the place and I was like, I am a fucking garbage human being. I just bit another person. And I'm just like, I am a grown man and I have no control. And I bit this poor dentist and I bit her assistant. What am I, some sort of maniac? And I sent my message to my wife and my wife says, "They're too funsy over there. It's her fault." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, my wife is like a fucking assassin. Like she says, that is not your fault. They're too friendly over there. There are too many jokes in that place. And I'm like, "Yeah, but I feel terrible." So I wrote a letter. I wrote an email to the receptionist, thanking them for being, I've gone there for 16 years. All of a sudden, I'm the funny one that bites. I don't want that.
It's in the notes now. Well,
yeah, it's in the notes.
The biter.
Yeah. Hannibal Lecter's coming in today. It's just like, you don't want that. So I just wrote this elaborate message saying how much I appreciated them, and my family appreciates them. And then I said, "Could you please tell the assistant how mortified I am that I bit her?" And I'm waiting, and they didn't write back. So in my mind, I'm thinking maybe they're going to fire me.
Really offended. Yeah.
Maybe they were just like, this is like a real issue. Maybe, who knows? I have no idea. So finally, after hours, I got a message saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's okay." But I was like, I was tore up because I was like, I fucking bit the dentist's assistant. I'm 47. I'm a civilized man.
Yeah,
you'll have to tell them that you're up to date with all your rabies shots, so they're okay if you bite them.
You know what the funny thing is, I am up to date with my rabies shots because I had them all a number of years ago. I am fucking clear.
It could have been worse. You could have bit your proctologist.
That
would have been good.
That was, but it was just like and then it was. I said to my wife, I was just like, I feel like I feel subhuman. When you bite another person, even though, and she was just like, it's not your fault. It was nothing to do with you. They're too funny over there. It's too fun.
They've got to be used to it, surely.
I don't think so, man. I mean, she was shocked. So there you go. The last of my. I know, Mareko, you don't like to. I was torn. I mean, if an adult says to you, "Oh, you bit me," in this surprised way, it sounds fucked up. It really fucking sounds fucked up. And it doesn't feel like, I fucking bit your ass. I mean, it's like,
but you didn't bite her like you're fucking Mike Tyson.
It was no, of course.
Talking and she was putting stuff in.
Of course, but it didn't really dawn on it. Of course. After the fact, and my wife talking me down, I mean, it was just like this Larry David moment where, like, all of a sudden now I'm like, uncontrolled. I'm uncontrolled. I'm a bad patient. In the notes it says he bites.
Yeah, the wild man of the dentist.
Right.
So what we up to this week? Any big plans? Anybody?
My kid's going to concert. She's going to go see Governor's Ball. So Hill and I are gonna have some fun this weekend. We're gonna go do some
Oh boy.
parenting, some dating things. So that'll be good. And then
Well, she wants to see Governor's Ball. What is it? Is that a
there's
band? What is
at City Field, there is a giant concert with Billie Eilish and
Oh, wow.
a pile of other people. And then she's gonna go down and she's got tickets for 2 nights. So she's gonna go today, and then we're gonna pick her up tonight,
Nice.
and then she's gonna go tomorrow and stay with my cousin. So it'll be fun.
Nice. I love that that Billie Eilish song, "The Happier Than Ever," off the newest album.
She's so
It's
goddamn
like
talented.
it's amazing.
She's so
Yeah.
talented. She's such
Yeah.
a talented kid.
Yeah, it's on constant repeat.
Well, and her
here.
brother does all the beats and music, right?
Yeah, Phineas. Yeah.
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 Very,
Yeah,
very
they're both
talented.
super talented.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. And they're homeschooled.
Hmm.
They're homeschooled. I mean, there is something very interesting about this homeschooling thing, because when I was younger and there are people who are homeschooled, you just kind of like give them the cross eye, like they're like something's up with them. But like you see these extraordinarily talented people who are homeschooled,
Yeah.
and they're well adjusted.
I think pre sort of internet, to be homeschooled would have been really difficult, both socially and, you know, as from a parent trying to teach them as well would be difficult. But now, you know, like everything else, with all these tools at our fingertips, it's something that we've really considered here as well with ours. But we need a break. It's not just schooling; it's actually sort of daycare for us to have a break and get work done. So yeah.
And you want your kids like clear for general population. You know, you want them to be able to learn how to. I mean, school is school, but I mean, really, it's how to deal with people and.
Yeah, there's
like
the soft skills, not just the sort of intelligence as well.
Right.
Yes, without doubt. Yeah.
What are you up to this
Where
week?
we live.
Oh, sorry, you were saying.
I was just going to add to the homeschooling thing. Where we live, we have a regional education center, because, you know, some of the once the homeschoolers get up in the high school age and stuff, like they're trying to learn trigonometry and physics and chemistry and stuff like that, and it's more difficult for parents to try to teach. So this regional education center actually has teachers come in, I think from the district, from various schools or whatever, and teach some of those classes, and they get some kind of in-person interaction with other kids who are also homeschooling. And you know, kids who are homeschooled in the area also they're still kind of considered part of the district, and so they can sign up and do sports, they can be part of clubs and stuff like that. They're getting the bulk of their education at home.
Yeah. I think it's going to become more and more popular as well. You know, with more people working from home now as well, that it makes sense if you're at home and have your kids around, they can learn with you. But the education system here in France is very different. So there's no school on a Wednesday here. So they do Monday, Tuesday, no school Wednesday, school Thursday, Friday. But then Wednesday is what they call Associations Day. So they encourage, you don't have to, but they encourage you to put your kids in like clubs and sports clubs and all that happen on a Wednesday. So if you are homeschooling, the kids would still have that sort of interaction with other kids on Wednesdays, because that's Associations Day. So it was something that we sort of seriously considered, just because we've really struggled putting them into school, to be honest, you know, them not being around. But I think for the moment it's the best thing that they do go to school. But I think it's over the coming years, I think more and more people are going to be doing it, and it'll become more sort of normal for people to do things that way. Because particularly over here as well in France, the educational system is very sort of, it's quite dated. It's very much on sort of grammar and, as you know, old school maths and that kind of thing. And I think we're not, we've mentioned this in the past, I don't think we're training kids for the workplace as the workplace will be in 20 years' time. I think it's going to be very different, where these traditional skills that they're learning maybe won't be as important as more sort of creative stuff, which I think people will need more, which they're not getting from school. Educational talk, kids.
So what do you got going on this week, Craig? Anything good?
Me, I'm finishing off quite a big batch of hemp knives with the hemp handles for a restaurant. I've got some shipping to do. I've got what have I got going on? I think that's pretty much it. It's pretty much normal week, nothing outstanding this week. But that could change with the flip of a switch. And I could be out of the game for a little while. But that's all. something different. So, Mareko, what's happening with your week?
Well, like I said, I took a bunch of knives over to kind of teach Neil some of the ways I approach my blade grinding and handle assembly and how I do integrals. And so I came back with some knives close to basically being finished and others in various stages. So I'm just kind of working on those this week, and that's basically it.
Do you
Standard
fly
knife work.
with all them in your sort of in your luggage? Do they check them out? Did you go through?
Yeah. I don't know. They usually put a thing in your suitcase saying that they needed to look in your bag for whatever reason. This is the first time I've flown with knives that they hadn't done that.
Right.
It was crazy. Like on the flight over from Seattle to Hawaii, there were like 20 people on the flight. It was pretty incredible. I actually kind of played musical chairs a little bit because, as you take off, there's Mount Rainier's right there. It's a giant mountain. There's actually three others, or a couple others, sorry. Mount St. Helens and Mount Adams down in Oregon that you can see, and then watching the sunset and stuff like that. It was kind of a later flight. I showed up in Hawaii at like 9 o'clock at night, so I got to see the sunset and everything.
Nice.
And it was only maybe a third full on the way back, but it was actually kind of nice to fly with all that extra leg room.
Yeah.
Stuff.
How has Hawaii been with COVID? Being a group of islands, have they been super protective about letting people on, or have they?
Yeah, I mean, when it first was happening, they were on a pretty serious lockdown because they're an island, and so it can spread pretty quickly among an island. And they were doing actually really, really well until things started opening back up and tourism started opening back up, and they a lot of tourists started getting back over there, and then all of a sudden their cases went through the roof. They were fucking bonkers. And actually originally Neil was going to be coming here, but he was with a young kid and with the concerns of who knows what kind of regulations or lockdowns are going to be going down. If things kept up, he ended up canceling stuff, and so then I ended up going over there, and they're in a better place now. But yeah, they just they're very careful about who's coming over, what kind of testing do they have they been vaccinated, and all, taking surveys. And I had to like create a whole profile and stuff to be able to get over there and like upload medical information and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it all went super smooth.
Yeah. Well, the UK at the moment, they're going through a really difficult time because, as well as COVID, there's obviously been Brexit as well, and there's all these various shortages at the moment. So most of the fuel stations, not most, but a lot of fuel stations today simply ran out. They're like, we've got no fuel, so everybody's panic buying fuel. The government have already warned there's going to be food shortages over the winter.
Really?
Yeah, really bad. So a lot of haulage companies, they just haven't been able to survive after Brexit because all the extra the work and the taxes of traveling in and out of Europe it's too much work, and it's costing them too much money, and the import taxes and so on. So there's a huge shortage of truck drivers. So they can't get fuel to fuel stations. So everybody's panic buying, and then they just run out. It's a weird one, but there's been a CO2 shortage because they can't get the truck drivers. There's been a huge CO2 shortage, which you think that's only CO2, that's fine. But what that means is abattoirs who use CO2, which most do, to sort of stun the animals before they kill them, they don't have any. So all these farmers are having to cull their own animals and not being able to sell the meat because it hasn't gone to the right place. So there's a huge meat shortage in shops. Food, fuel.
What are they going to do?
Well, taxes have gone up. People are having food shortages, fuel shortages. Winter's coming. COVID's going to be hitting hard again. It's like, it's not looking. It's bleak. It's bleak. But the government are insisting. It's everything's fine.
So wait a second. So are people like in a panic that come when the snow starts to come, things are going to get really grim? Like, how do you prepare for something like food shortages?
Well, exactly. I mean, the actual government have actually announced that they're expecting, especially with Christmas coming as well. But it's such a sort of a food festival kind of thing. They're saying there's going to be very little meat. We're talking sort of like pre-war times. When people were literally rationed food. It looks as if it could be getting that bad again, and the government are just sticking their head in their sand because it's their fault. It's the whole, and they're saying it's a worldwide problem. It's due to the pandemic, and it's not, because it's not happening here in France. We're fine here. I can go fill up my car with fuel here, and I can go buy as much meat as I want. So it's not a worldwide problem.
You come downstairs and podcast in your underpants.
Exactly. I can do what the hell I like. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, they're gonna have a bleak time, I think. Wow.
Ugh, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it is terrifying. Yeah.
Oh,
And
terrifying.
on top of everything else, yeah, they've raised all their tax and everything else, but everything's getting worse. It's scary times. Positivity talk. What's good that's happening this week?
Harps. Get the harps on and let's
I know.
bring it up a
Jeez.
little bit.
Shall we?
Jeez.
Let's find the harps. What are you looking forward to this week then? There we go. Some positivity for the week.
I'm making a set of knives for our friend Josh Prince.
Oh,
And
nice.
I've been spending a lot of extra time on him because I want him to be extra good, as in like I'm nervous.
Josh has got
So-
a folder of mine as well on its way. He ordered too.
Look at Josh Prince is such a good dude. So he wanted to do something. He wanted me to do color lab. I came up with something that's really really neat. I really like, and it made me change the way I do a few things that I'm going to be how I kind of put the colors together. So actually, I'm kind of going to start to work on these new like sanding jigs for getting angles better. But yeah, I'm super psyched about that. I'm gonna get a pile of knives out the door this week, which is cool. And
Nice.
psyched.
Nice. Cool.
Nice.
Right. Should we call it a day?
I'm with you.
It's been a fun one. Right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Remember to support our sponsors because, they help us out, but they help you out with discounts too. So why wouldn't you take the discounts? And we shall see you all again next week. How do you guys feel about video as opposed to just audio? It felt last week, because we only did audio, it felt a bit different. It felt different again, and it almost as if we changed things up again. And the audio was great, but I do enjoy, reading the sort of live chat as we're doing the show as well. So I'm not quite sure where to go.
Are you wanting our opinion for the show now?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? What do you think, Mareko? I thought we were leaving.
No. Just before we go, I was
the
just
double
wondering-
show. This is the double show.
Yeah.
The double extra. I like the video, but if you think that the audio is taking a hit, or if it's becoming too much work, then I'm fine with just doing audio.
It's not so much the work, really. There's no real extra work. Well, I suppose there is, because sometimes they don't sync up. But it's not the work that I'm bothered about. It's more a case of the quality. But I do think we miss. I think we do miss out not doing the live show because we got beauties like Anus Forge saying that he's looking forward to not seeing my balls again. So we wouldn't get that if we.
I mean, having the live interact pretty clutch. I think I like that aspect a lot.
Yeah. I mean, people in the chat now are saying that they enjoy the live show, but that's because you are obviously a watcher of the live show, whereas the majority, the vast majority of people listen on a Monday or through the week to just the audio. So we've always got to be careful that we don't sort of, at the end of the day, this is sort of a radio show, so it needs to work just for audio. Yeah. Okay.
I have my opinions.
What's your opinion?
I hate my audio right here because I when I was in the truck and we had the oh, there he is, Prince, you're in there. I'm with you. I was in the truck. We had awesome audio. And it was because there wasn't a lot of echo, and and we figured out a way to make the audio sound really good. But now, because I the first few times I did it in the truck, you get the lights on and it's like a sauna in there, and then it just looks like terrible, and then I'm uncomfortable. Then I'm out here, but I'm afraid of the audio is not as good. So it's like, and then when people aren't listening, you're a little less guarded. I mean, not that I've been so guarded. I've talked about my I mean, I couldn't have been less guarded, for Christ's sakes. The last couple episodes.
Yeah. Well, what if we do?
They like it on a Friday. These people, they like it on a Friday.
Yeah.
Send your feedback. Send your feedback in, and we'll do a poll. DM your feedback to Knife Talk Podcast on Instagram, and we'll make a decision how you listen to this podcast.
Yeah. So
whether
whether
you
you're
like
watching
live
now,
or you care about learning. And then I get bogged down by people writing things. I get irritated. I get irritated. I get sidetracked. I yelled at Griffith handmade earlier today, which wouldn't have happened. I got all salty with him. And now I'm going to get salty with Andre. It's like,
turn on the AC.
Yeah. Didn't you hear the AC? Come on, man. What do you think I've done? I've done this before, man.
We'll work something out. But there's huge benefits to both, obviously. So it's a trade-off either way. But yeah, we'll just give it some more thought during the week. And whether you're listening just to the audio, let us know what you think, or whether you're listening to that. I suppose that's the question. If you're an audio listener, do you find when we do these live shows that the audio suffers for you? Is it unlistenable, or let us know? Okay, that's a show. Thank you all very much for listening, and we shall speak to you all again very, very, very soon.